You are listening to Keith Price's Curtain Call. Yes, this is Keith Price for Keith Price's Curtain Call, and we are back. And it seems like we're going to be. This is going to become, I think, the Samuel French extravaganza. Because first of all, I'm sitting here now with. Well, I know who you are. He won't even give me a chance. Because he knows that I have a bit of a crush on him. So that's why it's hard for us to have a normal conversation. But I'm sitting here with Bruce Lazarus, who is the chief. What is your title?
I am the executive director of Samuel French.
He's the man that's in charge of making sure that plays, musicals that are being presented outside of this area of New York City. Of course, because usually you get them afterwards, right?
Let me tell you what we do. I know you know, but let me articulate
you
it.
Tell it.
So we are, first of all, Samuel French is the oldest, established in 1830, 186 years old, the oldest and largest publisher and licensor of stage plays and musicals. So we look for great plays and musicals, whether they're on Broadway or off Broadway or even regionally. And we acquire the rights to publish the play and license the play on behalf of the author. So we become the author's agent in the secondary markets. And we will license the plays usually outside of New York City, although sometimes in New York City. And sometimes we even have first-class rights, Broadway rights that have come to us. But for the most part, we're licensing plays and musicals in regional theaters, Lort theaters, professional theaters, dinner theaters, community theaters, colleges, high schools, middle schools, elementary schools. We do, theater for a young audience. We do professional theater. We have a licensing team that is broken up now. We used to have it broken up into regional, regions, like someone handled, the mid, exactly. But now we've changed that, and now we have experts. So we have a team of at least 2 people in each department that handle just high schools, or just theater for a young audience, or just colleges. We have the largest professional team in the industry. We have our entire licensing team is 14 here in New York, another 8 in London, and we cover the world. We just brought on a whole international department. We've made a deal with International Creative Management to handle all of their international licensing, coupled with our own international licensing, and so we are now a force in the worldwide market in English and in all foreign languages. So we have a team here in New York that does international as well as in London, and we're building that team even bigger. So that's our core business, and we support that through a very vibrant marketing department. Right. 4 years ago when I got here, we had 1 person in marketing. We now have 6 people in New York and another 3 people in London. So we have a really dynamic marketing department, which no one else in our little industry has or pays attention to. And we also do advocacy on behalf of playwrights. In fact, we've done in the past a series of panels called Rights Week, and put out a white paper called Owning Their Words, which is about how playwrights, the rights playwrights have in their works, and why it's important that people pay for their works and abide by the playwright's wishes. The playwrights own these copyrights, and they can determine how they want the play done. We have a very vibrant compliance and enforcement department to make sure that people aren't changing the play and aren't, casting the play against the author's wishes. Sometimes the author says, no, this part has to be played by this kind of a character. You can't mix men and women. Sometimes they say, it's great. Let's have totally blind casting. In fact, we just got notice that from Fun Home that they are totally open to blind interracial casting. So, which would make it very interesting. You know, we handle the rights for Natasha Pierre, which is opening on Broadway in October, and it was recast with an African American in the role of Natasha. I saw her in Boston. She's marvelous. She's really fantastic, and in a way, it enhances the play. Is it historically correct that an African American would be playing this part during the in Russia in the 1800s? No, but once you accept that, it makes it gives a richness to the play that's unexpected. So, what we do at Samuel French is we are here to represent playwrights and to stand for them being able to make a living out of the work they do, to stand for the enforcement of their rights in their works, and also to help them navigate the landscape, which is really changing with technology these days and with the politics of race and ethnicity and gender, and so we're very proud of that stand we take for authors.
I love that. Bruce Lazarus with me here on Keith Price's Curtain Call. And we're talking about the work that Samuel French does to protect authors and to protect writers because, again, like even in the music business, there is a lot of loss that these individual creators suffer because there is no real good sense of protection. Now, for you, when you were talking about how the playwrights, for say, may insist upon casting certain things a certain way because they want to have respect to the integrity of the piece. There was recently something I remember reading about The Mountaintop, where Katori Hall's play, where they wanted to have Martin Luther King played by a white man, and that caused a big ripple.
Yeah. Actually, it's interesting. I believe it's actually not our play, but I followed that issue, and
also Two Hands on a Hard Body too. I remember there was a huge thing in Houston, and that was yours piece.
That wasn't about race.
But that was just about changing the play. Yeah.
But The Mountaintop is interesting because I think it opens up a whole lot of issues. So I believe the story is that the producer said they wanted to do the play with a black Martin Luther King and a white Martin Luther King. To which I believe Katori Hall said, no, you cannot do it with a white Martin Luther King. I'm not sure how it went down, but in any event, they only did it with a white Martin Luther King. I believe that's right. And she objected to it, and we support playwrights. So if that was our play, we would have gone in and said, no, you can't do it, cease and desist, stop, you cannot do it. But I think it opens a different question, which nobody is quite addressing. The right of the author to say, I want it played by a certain ethnicity, whether it's, it must be a Chinese actor and not a Korean actor, right. Or it must be played by an African American. I think it begs the question of who is African American? So, and I've actually brought this up at a Dramatists Guild meeting, and I didn't get a lot of interest in the conversation. But really, if you think about it, so if someone has an African American one parent and a Caucasian other parent, are they African American? If they are 1/4 or 1/8 or 1/16. And they're light-skinned, can they play Martin Luther King? How do you draw that line? Edward Albee actually insists that he see the photographs of every actor that wants to be in his play. Wow. Now, if we had every playwright demanding to do that, we couldn't be in business because it would be unwieldy. But short of that, how do you determine who is qualified under whatever standard you say? Again, our position is to support the playwright, and we just want the playwright to be able to articulate what it is that we're supporting. So we have a thing coming up at the end of September called Identity Week. One of the things that we do at Samuel French is to be a forum for discussions, whether it's about rights. I mentioned we have a white paper, and we did a rights week. This year, we're going to do a 4-evening panel. We're doing it in collaboration with Playbill and HowlRound. It'd be live streamed worldwide by HowlRound. And it's called Identity Week, and it deals with the author's issues in regards to race and ethnicity and gender and transgender, and it covers a lot of different areas, not only just casting, but issues like, is there an expectation that an Asian American writer is going to write only about Asian American characters or issues? Right. Why should they have to? And yet there's some expectation that that's what they're going to do. I don't know if the same is true for a Caucasian playwright. I think they can write about whatever they want. So why are we putting people in boxes? And that's an issue we want to talk about. We want to talk about issues around transgender. We just acquired a new play called Southern Comfort, yes, a new musical, right, which is all about transgender, and I'm actually pushing to have it done in North Carolina, right in the face of House Bill, whatever the bathroom bill. Yeah. But it's also about activism in the theater and celebrating pioneering artists, whether that be someone like Mart Crowley, from right, Boys in the Band, or Harvey Fierstein and Torch Song Trilogy, or Larry Kramer, Normal Heart, or others. I mean that's the LGBT part of that, but it's also people like Lorraine Hansberry and I mean, yes, absolutely. But when you're talking about pioneers that did it, I mean, Lorraine Hansberry wrote in the 50s, and a woman writing in the 50s when there weren't that many women playwrights, and a black woman. I mean, so those are the kind of issues that we want to explore, we want to celebrate, and that's not something that is a that's not something that goes to the Samuel French bottom line. We do these kinds of things because we're leaders in the theater. We want to be activists on behalf of playwrights. We want to advocate for their rights, and we want the playwrights to have a forum to discuss those issues, to get clear on it themselves, and to voice many different sides of each issue. And maybe there is no one answer to any of these questions, but at least we know what the issues are and to have a lively discussion about it.
That's Bruce Lazarus with me here on The Curtain Call, and we're at the Samuel French offices here in Manhattan. And it's interesting that I just picked up on something when you said that in this diversity period that we're really are trying to embrace. Identity Week is your thing, but I'm just saying, like, the diversity embracing that seems to be happening at least much more in theater than it is, let's say, in film, which has been, the hashtag, Oscar so white thing that we went through just this earlier this year. Do you find that in the theater it's easier to have this kind of diversity that we're expressing and seeing, and it also be profitable? Because I think that that's the other part to that makes it worthwhile for people, because you can make money talking about other people, other types of people. Kinky Boots, Fun Home, they've all shown that different Hamiltons have all shown that not only can you be different, not only can you express diversity, but you can also make some money. It's like, is that a factor to this?
I don't know. I don't think anybody are doing are writing this kind of material with the sole focus of, I'm going to make money doing this. This is the angle I'm going to use to make money. They're writing it from the heart. They're writing it as an artistic piece. And the fact that it has legs, as we say in the theater, I think has more to do with the quality of the piece and the artistic integrity of the piece and the direction and producing of the piece and all of that. I don't think there's a motive behind let's find something that's, that has diversity in it. Unless, of course, that's your mission as a theater. I know there's like Minneapolis, Mixed Blood Theater is all about, mixing up the cast. And they've been doing that for a long time before it was fashionable.
Right. I love that. Bruce Lazarus with me here on the Curtain Call, and we're in the Samuel French conference room. Actually, I'm looking around and I'm seeing all of these plays that I want to put in my bag.
We will send you the goodie bag.
Because I can't help myself. I find it really fun, though, because you have been involved in the theater for a long time, haven't you?
I have. I started when I was a child.
Yeah.
Yes.
Doing?
No, I meant I started out as a child. Actually, I was not. My parents took me to the theater when I was. I think the first show I saw, I was 8 years old. I saw Sound of Music. I lived in Brooklyn. My parents took me to see that, and the next year they took me to see Funny Girl. Not with Barbara though. She was already. It was a replacement. I think Mimi Hines was in it. I still have the playbills from back then. My mother dated them. So we had a reverence for the theater. And then I remember in high school taking. I used to go with a buddy of mine into the city when we were 13 and see Broadway shows on like a Saturday matinee. And then later on I took girls on dates to the theater. I thought it was very classy, right? Take them out for dinner and to a Broadway show. I was so. And but then I didn't participate in theater as an actor until college. When I discovered it, and then I became a drama major. In my little group at the University of Miami drama department was Ray Liotta and Stephen Bauer and a lot of hot actors that are still working today. And so it was, and out of that grew my passion for the theater. I actually went out to Hollywood to get involved in film, but I found that I kept being drawn back to the theater. There was something about film I didn't like, that as an actor you were doing everything out of sequence, and it was... but there was something magical about the theater, that it was happening right there, live, in the dark, with real people. That it was just something that touched me in a way that I wanted to be a part of. And so I made myself a life in the theater.
Wow. Bruce Lazarus with me here on the Curtain Call. But then, you became a lawyer at some point throughout the It's in your bio. Now, where in your development, as you were processing the whole theater thing and acting and show business, that the thought of going to law school hit you? What was the moment that made you decide that's what I'm going to do?
Actually, I had been an agent for a while, and I sort of didn't like the gig. I wanted to do something else. I moved to New York. I was in L.A. as an agent, and I was really young, and I just couldn't find my way in New York. And this is unrelated to the theater, but my friend of mine's older brother, I heard, became a lawyer. And this guy was as dumb as a stone. And I thought to myself, if that guy could be a lawyer, I could be a lawyer. So I ended up moving back to L.A., got a job at another agency, and went to law school at night, and became an attorney. And I knew there'd be a future in that for me. And eventually I became an in-house business affairs counsel at Disney. So I had my eye on a place to go with it. I knew I wanted to be part of the industry. I just was searching for where that was. It's interesting. When I went to college, I used to think to myself, nobody uses their major. You know, you major in whatever, in English and political science, and you go do something else. And I've actually not only used my major, which was drama, but I went to law school, and I'm a entertainment attorney. I used both things. How fantastic is that? I never really thought, that far in advance, but I actually used it. Or maybe I did think that far in advance. I just didn't believe that it would happen. But I just kept going.
You kept going. Bruce Lazarus with me here on the Curtain Call, and it's so funny. I just picked up on something, and I know we've had the opportunity to talk off mic and on mic before, and one of the things
Did you tell them we're actually friends?
Yeah, well, they don't need to know, but you can tell we're friends. Come on, I've already told them they had a crush on you. What do you want me to do now? What are you going to do?
Got a crush on you.
That. No, but something about you that I found very interesting as I listened to you trace some of your history, that you worked as an agent at one point in time, and you became a lawyer, and now you're doing what you're doing here. And as an agent, you were looking out for your clients and looking out for your artists. And here, at this job that you have now, you're doing basically the same thing by being that advocate of some sort for your thing. That's like, you have like a very caring energy about yourself then.
Yeah, it's interesting though that, because I thought you were going to go someplace else with that, because in between being an agent for artists and being an advocate for artists now, I was an attorney for a long time representing producers, which are not opposed to artists, but are usually on the other side of the negotiation with it. And so I've had so I sort of see the issues from both sides of the coin. I know, what producers want and what artists want, and why each of them feel entitled to ask for what they feel they need, and in there lies the negotiation, I guess.
Yeah, but again, it goes to, I guess, the overall thing, because I was having like this thought. It's like you have a very caring energy about you that translates into your career. Like it's you do make an effort to truly take care of the artist, which are the people that get taken advantage of the most in the world of business.
I'm gonna focus in not just on artists but on playwrights. Todd London wrote this book called Outrageous Fortune, a detailed account of playwrights, and did a lot of research on their income and how they get second productions and how much money they make. And it turns out that the average playwright makes less than $40,000 a year, and only about a quarter of that from the theater. They usually have a teaching job or some other job. And so playwrights don't make a lot of money. And when someone does a play and doesn't pay the royalties, they are not stealing money from Samuel French. Samuel French makes, a 10% commission on what we do, and we do all of the administrative work on it and the accounting work on it. We put a lot of work into it. But the 90% goes to the playwright. And so when someone's stealing a play, they're taking the grocery money away from a playwright. They're taking a playwright who has a family, the kid's college fund. It's not the same, at least, it is the same, actually, as taking it from anybody else. But when they bootleg a song and they're taking it away from a record company or a movie and they're taking it away from a big movie studio, I think it feels like, they're a giant corporation. What do they care if I watch their thing without paying for it, or I download their music without paying for it? It's equally as wrong. However, in the case of a play, it's not some giant corporation, because playwrights own their work. It's not the Schuberts don't own the play, the Nederlanders don't own the play, Warner Brothers don't own the play. It's this playwright that owns the play, and they're trying to make a living. And if they can't make a living in the theater, then they're going to have to go do something else. And then you lose the great playwrights. Either they become writers of movies and television, or they get out of the writing business altogether. In fact, we've just started a new advocacy program called Playwrights Welcome. And we've gotten together with the Dramatists Guild and have made this initiative and put it out to theaters all across the country to allow playwrights to go to the theater at no cost. And let me just characterize that. We want playwrights to be able to go when there are unsold tickets, to be able to walk up to a box office, and if there are seats that are going to go empty, and they are a professional playwright, they're a Dramatists Guild member, to be able to show their Dramatists Guild card and say, I'd like a courtesy for the profession. Because it's important that playwrights who really cannot afford to go to the theater, they can't afford to buy that ticket, to have the opportunity to stand on the shoulders of the great masters that came before them, to stand on the shoulders of their contemporaries, and to learn what's going on in the theater. Marcia Norman, Pulitzer Prize-winning playwright, said to me once that she went to the theater early in her career, and I don't recall the play she told me she saw, but she said she walked out going, "Oh, I know how to do that now." There was something in the way that particular playwright handled something, or the direction, or the design, that gave her an insight into her own work that allowed her to allow it to blossom. Right. And we need to foster this education, this access in playwrights. So we've put out this program called Playwrights Welcome. So far we have theaters all over the country. I'm just going to, actually I have this list in front of me. I'm going to tell you who is participating in Playwrights Welcome across the Alliance Theater in Atlanta, Georgia, Berkeley Rep in Berkeley, California, Center Stage in Baltimore, Dallas Theater Center, the Geffen Playhouse in Los Angeles, the Goodman in Chicago, Hartford Stage in Hartford, Connecticut, the Huntington Theater in Boston, Intiman Theater in Seattle, La Jolla, McCarter Theater in Princeton, New Jersey, Portland Theater Center in Portland, Oregon, Shakespeare Theater Company in Washington, D.C., Seattle Repertory Company in Seattle, Theater Under the Stars in Houston, and the Yale Repertory Theater in New Haven, Connecticut, have all become members of Playwrights Welcome and are willing to support playwrights in their education by providing them with a free ticket if there are unsold tickets. Now, we're not asking them for free tickets if they could sell that ticket to someone else. If they could, because an author makes a royalty on that, we don't want to take anything away. Mm-hmm. But if that seat is going to go dead, let a playwright see it. Playwrights are different, and this is really where where I wanted to start this conversation, is that it's a playwright that looks at a blank page and creates something from nothing. Without, the director and the actors and the designers and all the other people involved in theater make marvelous and necessary contributions to the theater, and what they do are derivative works of the playwright's copyright. It's the playwright's vision that is at the heart of our industry, is the heart of our art form. And without playwrights, it doesn't exist. There is nothing for actors to act, or directors to direct, or designers to design, or for audiences to see. Then it becomes a concert, or it becomes poetry, but it's not the theater. And so we need to nurture playwrights. We need to make sure that playwrights have the opportunity not only to see others' works, but through some of our other programs we have, like the Off Broadway Festival, we give an opportunity for young playwrights to get their work seen, to get it out on a stage. It's all part of this commitment that Samuel French has to the theater as an art form and as a viable way for theater professionals to make a living.
I love that. Bruce Lazarus with me. It's funny because I think what I picture and I hope that people pick this up too, is that one of the biggest things that you guys do seems to be truly is to protect the absolute core of what the theater is all about. Like, by helping and protecting the playwright, you literally are saving the rest of the industry, as we say, because as you put it, if there's nothing written on a piece of paper, the designers have nothing to do, set people have nothing to create, actors have nothing to say. You know, every piece of the theater that we see as audience members is really because of the playwright. And so if the playwright is not protected, then you're not protecting the art form. That is amazing. So Bruce Lazarus, I want to call you Lazarus, but it's Lazarus, is here hard working at Samuel French to make sure that the artist, the playwright, is being protected. And it's wonderful to kind of get a much closer peek into what that really means, because I don't think people, there's lots of folks that are sitting here listening to this that are, budding writers themselves. And at that point now you have something to put in your mind, to put in like that kernel of thought to have now, to understand that when you start writing these things down, there is protection for you. There's something.
It's not only protection, because all of those things that we've just talked about are all things that do in fact protect and enhance playwrights, their livelihood and their work. But the core business of Samuel French is to publish and license plays and musicals. So we are very active with our we have 50 people here in New York, another 20 people in London, another 10 or 12 people in Los Angeles, all focused on licensing our playwrights' work. And that means licensing them in Lord theaters and in professional theaters around the country, all the way down to high schools and middle schools, to really making sure that their play is getting a second production, a third production, a 10th production, a 100th production, with a long tail. Broadway's the flash in the pan. You get to be on Broadway, but sometimes you get to be on Broadway and you don't make too much money. And it costs you a lot of money to get there, and you spent 2 years of your life writing this play, and okay. But the licensing houses, of which we are one, we're not the only one, we look after the long tail, the way playwrights make a living from their work over the course of a lifetime. Up until the advent of the Dramatists Guild back in, I believe it's the 1930s, I'm not sure about that, but early on, playwrights sold their plays like screenwriters sell their screenplay to the movies. Maybe there's some provision for net profits, which in the movie business, I don't know if actually they ever exist, really. In the theater business, it's transparent. But playwrights at that moment in time got together and said, we are not going to sell you our play. We're going to own our play. We're going to own it, and we're going to let you license it from us. You get to rent it from us. Right. But don't forget, we own it. Right. And they made a sacrifice, because instead of getting big money up front, they took ownership. And sometimes playwrights suffer from that, suffer that they're not making that big cash up front, but they control their work. And that is something that I think is one of the great things that playwrights, unique in the entertainment business, have done. They've taken a stand to own their work and have paid some consequences for it, but have also reaped the benefits of control and for this long tail in being able to make a living over the course of a lifetime.
That's amazing. Wow. Well, I could talk to Bruce all day. But
let's keep going. Come on, let's have lunch.
It's almost that time. But again, Bruce Lazarus here at Samuel French. Again, I feel very blessed that I have the opportunities to have conversations with people like you that work the way you do in the industry, because it's not only good for me to share that with the people that listen to this podcast, but it's also good for me because I walk away learning something new. And we've had several conversations before, and it still feels like there's so much more that I'm going to get to learn from you. So now, the next time
I just want to say something before you leave that subject, which is that I am grateful to you, because without you, without your podcast, without your interest and your ability and willingness to communicate this to a wider audience, it's like hiding your light under a bushel. So thanks for opening up to it and being a communicator and a part of the advocacy team. Wow. So thank you, Keith Price.
You see, this is why I love me some Bruce Lazarus. Anyway, you guys can find out more about Bruce and everything that they do here at Samuel French by going to samuelfrench.com and follow him on the Twitter, on the Facebook. There are a lot of really great things that are happening here at Samuel French, and there are a lot of great opportunities for people outside of the New York area and LA area that they can do to participate with things like Samuel French, because we were talking a little bit earlier about the Off-Broadway festival that happens every year, where people can submit around the country. You can submit your work to possibly not only be seen, but to get published. And
it's a short play festival.
Short play festival. So, again, things like that are going on all the time at Samuel French. So
I just want to make a pitch for one more thing, which is we have an online magazine called Breaking Character, which has fabulous articles about the theater, about our industry, about all kinds of issues, many of them written by playwrights. Worth checking it out, samuelfrench.com/breaking character.
See, look at that. All of this, that's what you're getting. So again, thank you, Bruce, for giving me some time this afternoon to sit and chit and chat and talk about what you do and the work that you are doing for playwrights everywhere. So again, go to samuelfrench.com to find out everything you need to know about them, and then look for Bruce Lazarus. You might find him somewhere on that website. You're doing a few things. I see a couple of videos you got up there.
I got some videos.
He's got some videos.
Isn't this on video?
This man is a mess.
My best friend told me that I have a great face for radio.
He's a mess. This man is a mess, but he's fabulous at the same time. So again, samuelfrench.com. Get everything you can from them. Bruce, thank you so much for hanging out with me, and we will be back.
I've got a crush on you, sweetie pie, all the day and night time.